Did you know that over half of the world's freshwater lakes are in Canada? It's a country known for its sweet maple syrup, thrilling hockey games, and forests that burn bright with color every autumn. But beyond the calm, snowy landscape lies a complex and often turbulent past. A past filled with wars, uprisings, failed invasions, and near breakups. And yet, out of all that, Canada has grown into one of the most peaceful, stable, and livable countries on Earth. Today, let's explore 4 turning points that shaped modern Canada, a nation that chose patience over power and compromise over conquest. 1. A century-long clash, when France and Britain fought over the North. In the 1600s, both France and Britain looked to the northern wilderness of North America with ambition. But they weren't looking for gold. They were after white gold, beaver pelts, prized in Europe for stylish hats. The French came first, building Quebec and forming close relationships with indigenous peoples. But they lacked one thing: settlers. Meanwhile, the British colonies to the south were booming with people, commerce, and expansion. Eventually, after more than 100 years of tension and smaller wars, the 7 Years' War changed everything. France lost. Canada became British territory. But here's the twist. The French-speaking population stayed. They held onto their language, culture, and Catholic faith, and they still do today. So Canada didn't become just another British colony. It became a land where 2 great European traditions coexisted, often uncomfortably, but always side by side. 2. Twice invaded, why Canada never became the 51st state. After the American colonies won independence in 1776, the U.S. cast its eyes northward. Why stop at the Great Lakes when Canada was just across the border? The first attempt came during the American Revolution in 1775. U.S. forces marched into Quebec, hoping French Canadians would rise up and join them. They didn't. The second attempt came in 1812, when the United States declared war on Britain and launched another invasion into Canadian territory. Once again, they were pushed back. So, why didn't Canada join the American experiment? Because Canada chose a different path, slower reforms instead of sudden revolutions. Where the U.S. fought a war to break free from Britain, Canada gradually negotiated its own autonomy through laws, not guns. 2 neighbors, born from the same empire, but raised in entirely different ways. 3. Louis Riel, hero or traitor. On the vast prairies of Western Canada lived the Métis people, descendants of French fur traders and Indigenous women. They had their own way of life, their own culture, and, importantly, their own land. But when the newly formed Canadian government began buying and dividing land without their consent, the Métis knew they had to act. Their leader was Louis Riel, a well-educated, deeply spiritual man who believed in peaceful negotiation. He formed a provisional government in what is now Manitoba and forced Ottawa to recognize Métis rights. It worked, at first. Manitoba was created as a province, and the Métis won protections. But as settlers continued to push westward, the government ignored those promises. Riel led a second uprising, this one armed. It failed. Riel was captured, tried for treason, and hanged. To English-speaking Canadians, he was a traitor. To French speakers and the Métis, he was a martyr. Today, he's remembered as a voice for the voiceless and a symbol of resistance in the face of erasure. Canada later restored his honor, not just as a rebel, but as a founding figure of the nation. 4. Quebec, the province that nearly became its own country. If you truly want to understand Canada's inner identity, look to Quebec. Here, road signs are in French. Children grow up in a different legal system, influenced by French civil law. And the sense of pride and cultural uniqueness runs deep. In 1980, Quebec held its first referendum on independence. The result? 60% voted to stay. But in 1995, it happened again. And this time, Canada came within 1% of breaking apart. So, why did Quebec want to leave? Not because of economic hardship, not because of hatred, but because of fear, the fear of cultural erasure. Quebec didn't want to be a minority voice in a sea of English. They wanted recognition, not assimilation. To Canada's credit, the response wasn't force. It was understanding. The government gave Quebec more autonomy, protected the French language, and embraced a model of multiculturalism over uniformity. Today, Quebec remains in Canada, different, proud, and free to be itself. Canada rarely makes headlines for war, scandal, or drama. But that doesn't mean it lacks depth. In fact, Canada may be the world's quietest superpower, one that builds bridges instead of walls. A country that shows the strength of dialogue over division and empathy over ego. From Louis Riel to Quebec. From failed invasions to near secessions, Canada has taught us one powerful truth. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You just need to be steady and willing to listen. What do you think? If this story gave you something to think about, drop a comment and share your thoughts. Or tell us about a time when listening mattered more than winning. And if you'd like to join us on more quiet, thoughtful journeys into history, hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss the next chapter. Thanks for watching till the end. And may your day be calm, kind, and a little more Canadian.